How are you all doing then? Sorry about being a bit tad late there. Uh, my first stream, so yeah, so just a chill evening. Just wanted to go on live and chat to you folks. Anything helium related you want to talk about, I could talk about. Not quite a private
How
show,
are you all
sorry
doing
about that.
then?
Sorry about being a bit tad late. We laugh finally, sorry about that. Yeah, so happy to talk about anything really. Hit 40, shadow bans, install questions, best hotspots, best antennas, best tools, best sensors. We could talk about anything. Uh, my week's been full of SD card replacements. That's not been fun for everyone. So, uh, yeah, if you're running a 32 gig card at the moment, I just really would recommend upgrading to a 64-bit, 64 gig card. It makes such a difference. But if you've had your hotspots in for a while, then it might be time to upgrade them as well. So mine were just dropping off, and they were dropping off for about 7 days. So even with the reboot, they weren't coming back, and just upgraded to 64 gig cards. The next day they were up and earning again. So back to the normal levels. Like they were sort of earning, but it was only earning at like half of its normal potential. So yeah, the shadow ban list was removed from the latest firmware. It obviously took a day or so for manufacturers to put it out and for everyone to get it, because the ban list was in the firmware. So the challenger was checking the witness receipts against the list and dropping it. So it wasn't just the fact that your hotspot had to update; it was the whole network needed it. So, but the list has been removed. Yeah, that was a hell of a week finding that. I stand with them that the list needs to exist. I've been writing hit 40 or helping champion that through. The list needs to exist. It's as simple as that. It's just I think everyone hates the way it's done in the shadows. Looking at the vote and the way it happened. Um, if they'd just come out and said that, they would have got the same sort of response. Um, I think it's important to look at things like HIP 19 and some obvious failures that have been happening once or twice now. So yeah, this is the second manufacturer that's had evidence submitted against them. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, the deny list definitely needs to happen. Well, the list has come out because it was found and they felt like they had to remove it. There was they said there was a maths error introduced that meant some hotspots got targeted randomly when they shouldn't have done. The new list will be coming back, but from my understanding, it will be published. So I think we should get some sort of view of it before it goes live to know what happens and see if you're meant to be on it. I think it's kind of bad that the tools are out there showing people that are on the deny list, because the deny list clearly has some mistakes on it. So a lot of hotspots right now are getting labeled as gaming when they just aren't. They said it was very targeted, but there was some errors on it basically. So I would like to see people remove the list, and when the new one's published, now we voted for it, those tools are updated. But for now, it's not that relevant. I mean, it's good to see if you were selected on it, but it also gives the gamers a sign that they need to change their ways. And it should be in the next release. Maybe a list release after that. Depends on how well the network goes. They might need to release some updates before then. We'll just have to see. But had a hit 40 meeting Friday. Went really well. I think the video is going to be published soon, so people can watch that. And yeah, it's moving forward. We could do it in a decentralized way, out in the open, that we can all see it. But yeah. Yeah, 10% of rewards. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, they're back on, but a lot of the gamers they've turned the units off, so it doesn't matter that they've been removed from the list, because they just don't have units that are on anymore. So it's all the talk this week, though, isn't it? It's on everyone's lips. Like, wow, just crazy. I mean, I wish we could have got hit 40 through quicker, but the way things work, it just takes time. There's so many objections to every stage. It's a very slow process. Half full SD card, will it hurt witnessing and beaconing? Well, no, not really. The only time it's really going to affect you is if you power cycle these things. Like, one important thing I try to tell everyone is I don't power cycle these hotspots at all, ever. I've only had to do 3 recently because the SD cards were, but apart from that, they're always on. You know, it's just not something I touch, and that's the most important factor to it. So, if you power cycle your hotspot right now, you're likely to fill up the space on it or cause a resync event. So try not to do anything. But at the same time, from what I saw, a 32 gig card will wipe itself at least every 4 to 5 weeks. So upgrading to a 64 gig card can make all the difference. I originally put the video out and had the SanDisk ones, and Rack spoke to me and said that those ones are known to have some faults sometimes. So use the high endurance one. If you watch my video, you can have a look, and I've linked to the one that Rack recommended in the description. Let's have a look at this hotspot. Maybe you got any tips for my setup, clumsy gay gauze Robin? Let's have a look. That's a good start. You sure it's that name? It doesn't show up. Neberate DPI. Yeah, just because there's this feeling, there's this thought process going around on the network that you need a huge antenna, right? So you're saying right there you've got an 8 dBi. You're only ever going to affect your sent beacons with that, right? You're not going to be able to affect much what you're witnessing by going up to a huge antenna. It doesn't change it. So you're only going to affect your witnessing, and that's where most of your rewards are. So going from a 3 dBi or an 8 dBi, it's just, yeah, you're much better off focusing on a smaller antenna up high, obstruction free. So, get it up on your roof, or if you can't get it up on your roof, get it up on your attic. And rather than trying to get a huge antenna, it's just going to make your life so much better. I mean, what you're really trying to do is provide coverage for these things, these sensors. This is a TTGo T-beam. So if I walked around with this, would I be able to get your signal under your antenna? With some of these huge antennas, you just won't be able to serve data. So if I walked under it, you might not be able to serve it. And that's the ultimate goal for the network, right? People seem to miss this. It's not just earnings. It's about providing data for these small sensors. And, when I first started, these were the kind of things I was building. And now you look at technology for the Helium network, and these are the rack trackets. These things are tiny. The technology's advancing that we can use this network, but it's very important that we focus on providing that data, and going for these huge antennas just doesn't help. Clumsy gauze Robin. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, so already you're above average, right? So the first thing I always look at is the ETL, DYETL. Excuse me. I'm not going to be able to show you, but bear with me 1 second. Sort out OBS. You can tell I don't stream much, right? There we go. Here we go. Right. Right, ETL. Right. So they got this lovely. I've already logged in. I'm sorry if I skip that part from you. Just make sure you've got a Google account, not just any Google account, non-Google business account. So you can just go to etl.dy.org, and I always like to look at this networks overview table. So it's a great little report, but the most important thing is the average earnings. So right now the average earnings are 15. So when I look at this hotspot, it's over average. I mean, you can see it's got some quiet periods, but yeah. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's 8. I'm assuming that's an 8 dBi with 1 dBi of loss in the cable. I mean, you're covering a huge area, and I'm assuming this hotspot's probably moved. So the only thing, you can't affect this much, right? The only way that you can affect this is by having it out in the open, as obstruction free as you can get. So I never judge it too much on witnessing. But what you can affect is sending beacons, right? So we can see here the RSSI range that your beacon was heard by the other hotspot, signal to noise ratio, and yeah, we can see how good it is doing. Yep, strong signal, strong strength. I mean, the upper limits are about 140, I think. So, you know, that's obviously like a really good connection. But you can tell from the distance it's not far to go. So it sounds like there's not a lot of noise in the area. Very strong signal. Yeah, I don't think you need to improve anything at all. I don't think there is anything you can improve. All looks good. Yeah, the if you upgrade to a 128 gig card, it'll only be for a couple of months, so it's really not worth doing. You only need a little bit more space and height. It's currently seeing like the size of these disks is about 27 gigs, so could be more, could be less. So a 32 gig card doesn't have much space, and if it's got a bit bad sectors or anything, there's no space for it left to fall over. So going up to the 64 gig just gives you that extra headroom. You won't fill up a 64 gig card that quickly, but you know, it's just to have that extra headroom. Yeah, when with Node, I love it. I love it. Everything I do is with Node. I did leave a sensor out in the rain. I'll show you. I did leave a sensor out in the rain, and it iced over, and unfortunately I've got water damage on it. So, but it's really fun and enjoyable. So, what dash do you want me to show, Dave? You can link me if you want. Positive SNR is better, but negative SNR, Laura's really good at hearing it. So, you know, you can see from this hotspot, you know, minus 22, and it still hears it. So, you know, ideally you want. I was trying to work out SNR myself. It's not a measurement I'm hugely familiar with, but you know, if you were trying to do a video call or a voice call, you probably want this to be about 25 dB, but Laura can work, and as you can see, it works way lower than that. So 14, 8, 22 there, for example, still worked. And you'll see it on some of the larger witnesses, this will go right down. So it's not too bad. It's really great. That's why Laura does so well at distance. Yeah, I try and help. I mean, in my eyes, with helping out like this, it means that everyone does better. The Helium network does better, and in return, I do better. So, if anyone has questions or wants to ask anything, please feel free to ask them. I mean, one of the things I heard in voice chat the other day is some people think they shouldn't be asking the questions because they're so basic, but obviously in the Discord things get repeated over and over, but no question's stupid as long as you're learning from it, you know. If there's something basic you don't quite grasp and want to understand, please ask me. Well, anytime, any place, you know. I'm probably one of the only Discord mods with my DMs open, so feel free to PM me if you want to talk about anything as well. Right, Dave, which one am I showing? You want me to show you a report? Right, this one. Let's get it up. Distribution of rewards per hotspot. Yeah. This is where most people are on the network. I mean, one thing people seem to think is that there's these hotspots earning huge amounts a day, but it's just not true, you know. Yeah, this is the split and how many hotspots I've earned between a certain amount. So, from what I understand, this had been a lot worse because of the deny list. There was some hotspots affecting the grass because there was 40,000 of them. So. Any timeline for light hotspots? They reckon it's going to be this quarter. You can see the work in the background. There's a channel I love to follow, which is called GitHub Notifications on Helium. So you can see the work going on there, and there's a time frame. Let's talk about the time frame. Yeah, there's this image here, the light hotspots, the dev timeline. So we are here at the moment. Gateway RS runs on ECC worker. So this is saying that ECC is gonna sign transactions. From what I understand, this is in the testnet at the moment. So they've got light hotspots participating in test park, not earning anything, and there's validators generating challenges for them. So we're not far off. There are a few big changes to come. And some of them are independent. The ability to onboard light hotspots will happen before we update to full hotspots. So, and that'll happen in chunks. So we'll see as it goes along. I mean, best estimates were that it was going to be done before Christmas. So now to have Q1 means that, you know, we're getting close, very, very close. To have them in testnet and be able to see POC going on them is fantastic. Another minor request. Could I look at this one? Why is the other hotspot in this hex earning more? Yeah, he's earning quite a bit more, isn't he? So again, ETL, this is, if you've ever watched any of our hotspot deliverance over on Gristle King's channel, the ETL is the best place to have a look at what's going on with a hotspot. Outside of my tool, obviously. Yeah. Obviously a bit of downtime in this period. Was this blocked? Yeah, it's all looking fairly good. It's one of those things you just have to kind of know what to spot. So you're both witnessing just about the same as each other. Yeah, they both look pretty similar to me. Another thing I like to do is, I'm not sure I've shown this before, but on Helium status you can look at the rewards and see how one directional, two directional it is. And if there's any immediate issues. So sometimes Helium status doesn't know how to dial you, so just reload the page and it will bring up everything. There's no immediate signs to me that anything's wrong with either of these hotspots. Doesn't look like there was any recent issues. Everything matches up. One thing I like to do is look at this rewards tab. So this hotspot is witnessing 47, but 56 hotspots are witnessing this hotspot, right? So this is the ones where this is how many beacons it's hearing, and this is how many beacons it's sending and being heard by hotspots, right? How many hotspots are hearing that beacon? And again, on his setup, this number matches, this correlates. So going back to here, this sounds like you're less obstruction free than them. So there's something in your placement that you need to optimize. So whether it be maybe a tad more height, maybe you're in a valley, it's hard to see. But yeah, what I'd say is just try and understand the basics. If you've got an antenna up and it's the best way to describe it is, if this is your, hang on, see, I'm doing this right. If this is your mounting point and you put it here, you're going to block signal from the mount being so close. So you need to make sure it's away and up, so there's no obstructions. Because signal doesn't propagate as you think in a straight line. It needs a curve underneath to reach the other end. So you need to make sure you're a certain height off of the ground to do well. So little things like that can make a huge difference. Or if you've got it in an attic, you might have the same height, but you might have the obstruction. So you might want to try it outside. What's really good for doing that is having a mapper. So there's a Glamos Walker. There's a mapper I use. I've got loads of others. Get yourself one of these and test your coverage. This will show you how well your hotspot hears things. So you can walk around with one of these and really test your coverage, and then maybe you want to try shifting it a bit and then seeing if the signal gets better. So yeah, it's pretty good. Hey Simon, how's it going? All good? Got a few in here. Yeah, light hotspots. Oh, gonna be fantastic when they come. No more syncing, no more relay. A hotspot won't go offline and then have to take days to come back. It will just be on or off. They'll report into the validators. And the final one is validators will be doing challenges. So hotspots still beacon and everything. They still beacon, they still witness, but it just means they don't do challenges. It's a very small percentage of the rewards. But at the moment, the problem on most people's hotspots is, a challenger will challenge a beaconer. The beacon will be sent over RF. The witnesses will hear it over RF and report it back to the challenger. And that relay link often means that you get the zero witness beacons because you can't tell the challenger that you've heard the witness. So when that's on validators, it will be a much better situation. I don't want to say, the problem will be gone forever, but the problem will be a lot better. Yeah, let's check it. Witty Kaki Dragonfly. I found out the other day that these hotspot names have dinosaur names, and I want a dinosaur name so bad. I don't know what it is. Like, there's actually prehistoric and then color dinosaur. So if anyone spots one of those ever, I will gladly pay them for the name. I just think it's a cool name. Yeah, so last updated 4 days ago is not generally a good sign. People often overlook this. This is the last time you gossip to the network. Well, the last time the server... So the API is run against an ETL server. The ETL server looks at the blockchain and says, okay, there's this new block. Let's ingest it, store it in a database so we can read it back. So the last time their API heard it was 4 days ago. It's not generally good. Yeah, let's have a look at it on Helium status for you. And you can't search by. There we go. I need to add that as a feature to search by address. How are we doing? It was working fine till recently. so never trust the first result. Yeah, looks like it's offline, bud. Yeah, if it's a rack, one of the things you want to do is double check. There's a great article on the Minted site, and I've got a video for it. You know, a quick sign is a disk error. I mean, the first thing I say is ignore any of this. Go look at a Bluetooth diagnostics, you know. Check inbound, outbound, check firmware version, check NAT type, because sometimes it will say unknown, and that's a sign it's got internet problems. And then most importantly, click send report, read that report, and you'll see the height of the blockchain, how much it's synced to. Often that 100% figure will be rounded up, so you might be a fraction behind, and that's why it looks fine, but you're not. Take note of that blockchain height number, redo the process 20 minutes later. But then if you start seeing things like this, the disk error, I've heard this goes away with a reboot, so always try a reboot. If it says read only, the Bluetooth diagnostics for disk state, it will show read only, so try a reboot first. But if it stops booting, it stops pairing over Bluetooth, or just doesn't seem to be coming up but after pairing the Bluetooth button, just try a reboot again. This is one of those things, like these are signs, but they can be very common and most of the time solved with a reboot, and then wait 20 minutes. You know, don't expect these hotspots to instantly respond to your Bluetooth. You know, try 20 minutes later. I know on the 1.5, the 1 and 1.5s, this is a bit difficult because there's no Bluetooth button, but just keep trying the diagnostics, and if you've got one of the older ones, so just keep doing it until it comes back up, just to double check. But yeah, if you've got any of these signs, then you might need to upgrade to a bigger disk, and as a precaution, you might want to upgrade to a 64 gig one anyway. So yeah, they list all the steps, and there's a video here, and it's always the latest version. Even if this is a bit out of date, it doesn't matter, because it will just download a new version when you install it. Yeah, don't send the report, whatever you do. Helium must get flooded with those. I asked Helium if they could replace the sync percent, which says 100, to block height, and the ticket was closed the other day. So coming up in a future firmware release, we're going to have the height directly, so you don't have to touch send report at all. I mean, if I was Helium, I'd be taking that send report button out altogether, because that email address must get flooded. Yeah, light hotspots will only do a couple of hundred mega data. So most of the data they're doing at the moment is two things, right? One is syncing the blockchain, and the second is relaying for other hotspots. So if your hotspot isn't relayed, you will generally send more traffic. You will send a lot more traffic because there's hotspots relaying through you. So once that all goes, the usage is way down. I don't want to say too low, because we don't know how often firmware updates and things are going to come, or if there's any special configurations or anything that we need to download to keep going. But generally, it should be a gig or gig and a half. Yeah, that's all you should need a month. I was put off 4G myself because it had so many issues, and often unlimited plans weren't unlimited. They were acceptable usage, and then after a while they'd limit you to 1 or 2 megs. So once we move to light gateways and the lower power requirement, I think it's just going to be a boon for off-grid placements. People always question how a motorway is going to get covered. Well, this is it. When they're needed next to node data, and they can provide no power, no data, and they can just be put anywhere, then it's going to be fantastic. We're going to see these explosions of growth, because after all, the biggest use of this network is probably going to be asset tracking, right? We need those highways covered, and we need to come up with a plan to how that's going to be done. You're relayed. Yeah, relayed can be fine. Sometimes it can be bad. Oftentimes it can stay fine for a while, but if the host you're relayed through goes offline or suffers syncing issues, which is quite common, you'll have to pick up a new link, and when that link changes, everyone still thinks about dialing you on the old address. So when the relay changes like that, you might find that you don't beacon in quite a while. The dev time. Yep, can't wait for light gateways. Wow, sorry, I'm not that entertaining, am I? Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, the same thing. Yeah, I had a business line. It was pay per megabyte, and I got the bill through, and one hotspot had done 400 gig, and that's when I cancelled the account. It was unbelievable. There's this thing where it will try and download a snapshot. It might crash out of memory, or the snapshot might not have come across properly, or it had a problem with one of the blocks. It would then reboot, download the snapshot again, and just get stuck in that loop. So 400 gig in a month was just killer. So they they all went on normal connections in the end. It was when I joined, 4G was fine. There was only a few hotspots on the network. When I first joined the network, there was about 8,000 hotspots. So 4G didn't have to do much. There wasn't a lot of relaying going about. The blocks were tiny. The gossip was quick. So, but now relays just generally bad whenever I see it. How's my data dashboard for sensors? Yeah, go well. I started a new project. I don't like using off the shelf software. I like writing it myself. Oftentimes, you get a system that you can use, but you've had to hack it together, or there's just one thing off. And one of the biggest uses on the network, I think, is going to be asset tracking. So I've started a website that's going to be hands-free setting up sensors. So I could send you a mapper as an asset tracker. Well, not a mapper, an asset tracker across the Helium network. You would only have to pair it with your account, and just sign up for an account like you do Helium status, enter in a code or scan a QR code, and you can get going with it. Billing and everything will be managed through it. So it's just one of those things I know everyone wants, but no one seems to be doing. So, watch this space. Hopefully in a month or so, I'll have something to show you guys, and you can track assets. Lofty goals for these things, as you always do when you start projects, but yeah, sounds fun at least. A full end-to-end device, and if it gets enough support, then we could do a mobile device as well, or things like geofencing. That's always interested me. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you run relayed as well, then yeah, you just use less data. So if you are off grid, then relayed is often better. I mean, I just can't. Most of my days is spent with someone in my DMs talking about 4G problems. It could have been part of this block list, and that's probably why for a while. But at the same sort of time, there's always little settings or something funny that they do, or it always used to annoy me that if I run out of my data transfer, which was like 35 gig at the time, which was more than enough normally, they don't notify you, so you sit there wondering what it is, and then you find it out. You want the rack trackets, 619. You want these things. They're good fun. You could build them yourself. I mean, you can't get the case, but yeah, they're really nice. I can't wait for people to see them. The app's great as well, but the problem is they've got this peer-to-peer mode, so they work off of each other, and they can tell how far they are by pinging each other, and you keep one with you. But the second you select Helium as a third-party provider for this, it stops tracking it in the app. So it's good, but you need a third-party solution afterwards. And it made me think, well, I could put it to Data Cake, I could put it to Google Sheets if I wanted to, or what. But it just made me think, why is there no end-to-end app for this thing? Companies are doing it, and part of it's because I live in Europe. Barnacle in the States, Infoxia's in the States. So if we can get something that can take, a Dragino off the network, a Dragino LGT92, or a Glamos, or a WizBlock kit, or a TT Go, or anything, or even these, provide an end-to-end solution, make it easy, and yeah. Trying to put together a DUI grant by myself is a struggle bus. Message me, man. I don't mind helping. We put in our first grant the other day. it was an interesting one. I think it's something that we need. There's obviously some questions relating to it that we need to work out, but yeah, I like talking grants. DUI do some great stuff, and they have funding for absolutely everything. You know, if it's going to help the Helium network, it's great to see. You know, the hotspot guys have got a grant in for a blockchain explorer, but focus on transactions like Etherscan. That sounds great to me. I've seen some grants for a Solana bridge, grants for an Ethereum bridge. The machine learning stuff looked interesting, obviously. Graph theory stuff looked interesting. There's a door sensor, foot traffic sensor, that looked good. Bear with me. You did what? Todd Nugs. Right, yeah, so I don't know what to do. I mean, I could talk with you guys. I can walk through some hotspot issues. I could talk about some stuff that interests me. News on the network. Yeah, I think a lot of this grant stuff was a new. You know, having the first wave of them was an eye opener, and seeing how they're regularly coming in now is fantastic. And part of the conversation we had the other day regarding the Hit 40 is if you've got an idea that improves the network and you're seeking funding for it, you really should apply for it. The GitHub's full of them. Let's have a look. You know, DUI grants. Yeah, these are all of the grants that are existing on the network at the moment. When rack dashboard? I hope so soon. From what I understand, there's going to be an alpha for gold spot owners, so they're going to be the first ones to see it. So, from what I understand, it's remote. So, where do I get the Glamorous Walker? The website is called. Let's find it. Glamorous.eu. There you go. It's quite pricey. It's like I like to think of it as like the iPod Apple of mappers. It's everything you need to get going all in one box. My favourite mapper is still the WizBlock stuff. So, you know, I like DIY stuff. I'm always going to like DIY stuff. So, WizBlock sensor, project case off of Amazon, old OG antenna, put it together, and I upgraded the GPS antenna. So. What's the best way to set up greenfield? As in deployment of sensors? Yeah, this really did get wet, and you can see in the case just how wet this got. I had a picture of it. It was icy, so it had frozen over. I was testing the network, so normally I run this as a mapper, but locally. So I'm not worried about the GPS coordinates, but it's interesting for me to see how many hotspots can hear in the area. So what I do is I run a mapper physically like this, and I'll just go run it outside, hence leaving it in the to get iced over. And what it allows me to see is I've got multiple packets turned on, so I can see every hotspot in the area and how well they're performing, and if they're dropping off or not hearing things. So yeah. It's fantastic to see, and you could just tell if there's issues on the network, and it seems to keep things alive more. I say it over and over, I don't have any data to prove it, but pushing data through your hotspot seems to keep them alive more. Seems to me like information like IP address changes, updates quicker. I would definitely recommend it, and a mapper is a great first project. So, do you really see the need of lightning arresters? I don't want to advise people not to and then, damage equipment, but at the same time, A lot of people that do know have said to me that they don't run them. It obviously adds some loss to it. I might have just been talking to people in non-lightning areas, so it's not about taking a direct lightning hit. Obviously, if it takes a direct lightning hit, it's going to die. There's no two ways about it. But it's about the build up of static in the air and it affecting signals. So if you feel that's a need, maybe you've got the antenna up at the highest point around, then maybe you want to. But if you're just running and there's a taller building across the road with a metal rod on the roof, it might not be worth it. Yeah, it's peace of mind. When a lot of these rumors started back in the day about what you have to do, what you don't have to do, because no one knew. Crypto was new for a lot of people. RF was new to a lot of people. I run antennas and I've run them outside without lightning arresters, and in the whole year that I've done it, I've noticed no issues. Yeah, Glamorous Walker. It's nice. I could probably show you a little bit of it. It's just not going to work that well. Yeah, so I normally do these send multis. And that one. And then I'll do a period loop. So this is the details on what signal strength I want to send and the period that I want to send it. So I can select 30 seconds. And then I can select the band that I want to send it at, spread factor 9. Just click send. Obviously takes a while to get GPS off the first one and a lock. I haven't updated the firmware in this in ages either, so this don't work. There you go. So what that's doing is it's sending a packet out, and when a hotspot hears it, it reports it to the chain. But there's metadata in that information. What strength was it heard at? So how well did this antenna send a signal to my antenna? And you can tell how good the receiving is. And if you change your antenna, you can repeat the process and say, oh look, this made a difference, or maybe this didn't make a difference. And it was an eye-opener for me when I first did it. I did things like, what's the difference between an MR 240 and 400 in real world? Is there much difference? The answer to me was, if you run in short runs, it makes not much difference. Indoor versus outdoor, huge difference. Attic versus second floor, huge difference. Again, every time you go higher, you make a huge difference to your earnings. But helium traffic could be helium traffic's dependent on region. So in the States, I think their upper region is SF10, but in the UK and EU, we've got SF12. So SF12 is slow. So it's like yelling something from a distance, like a long, slow call. SF7 is like shouting it really fast and loud. So you'd want 7 if you're fairly close with good signal, but if you're really far away, you want 12. So you can run it on any. If you're testing and you want to test for POC, obviously, you want to do it at the highest range for your region. So in the EU, POC is done at SF12, and in the States, I think it's done at 10 or 9. Why I stopped getting so many POC rewards? At first, it was 3-4 of them a day. It could change, You've got to remember, you're very dependent on the hotspots in your area and how well they're performing. Yeah, it could be because they're down. Maybe they haven't been targeted in a while. Maybe they're sinking. Maybe they've had problems. Yeah. Any smart plug I recommend. Yeah, these ones. I like these ones. TP Link Tapo P100. They were cheap, and Amazon keep having them on sale. So you could get a 4-pack very, very cheaply. And I'm sorry for pounds for those of you in the States, but yeah, really, really cheap, really, really easy. They come with an app. That app, you could even schedule them to restart once a day if you wanted to. So you got a timer, scheduler, remote control. So if you get the app on your phone and you can reboot them from anywhere, you don't have to be on the same Wi-Fi. You can be on 4G and turn them off and on. It's just so handy. Like, obviously, you don't reboot your hotspots too much, but say you're 2 days into a hotspot or a day into the hotspot not working, you can just try that reboot cycle without having to go there. It's a goal of ours for Helium status to eventually tie this into an activity gap counter. So if the activity gap counter goes for too long, it will try a reboot. We can send that with a webhook to this plug and get it to reboot. So that's a feature that we would like to produce for a Helium status. So, am I familiar with FM radio antennas blocking our 868 channels? No, I'm not familiar with that. I wouldn't have thought they would unless they were broadcasted on 868, right? Obviously, I'm hearing more and more every day about noise levels, noise floors, and someone told me in the UK, Sky TV, they use power line adapters for providing internet to the TV. So apparently they've been adding so much noise. It's one of those things that you need to look at. And it wasn't until I went and looked at my noise levels that I could see any real. I didn't really read it. I saw the witnesses coming through, but I didn't see how well they were coming through. So having a look at that SNR figure, the RSSI figures really opened my eyes. So yeah, you have to be careful if you put them near. If you install your hotspots near other antennas as well, then you might need a filter to clear the noise. Yeah, those plugs are nice, aren't they? They're always on an Amazon sale, and I think I got them for like 20 quid for 4. So just keep your eye out and just grab them whenever you can. They always seem to be on sale. Yeah, what I was talking about earlier, the grants. So DUI Alliance grants, and you can see all the issues, and they are flooding in. There's some really cool ones. Look, IoT enables space monitoring and satellite tracking, and you can see that being accepted. So HIP22 concentrated design, open source. There's 2 of these. This one's from Long AP, and there's another one. HNT scan, yeah, that's from the hotspot, you guys. This is going to be one to view transactions a bit better than Explorer does it. There you go. Ethereum bridge, miner match. This is I think that's a grant for the idea that maybe I have locations and I can go put them on a site and then get paired with someone. And yeah, there's the other design for the HIP22 concentrator. This one by Dynacore. So both open source, really cool to see. Solana bridge. Yeah, it's cool. But at the same time, DUI grants, you can also see the manufacturers ones. So if you look at the issues here, you can see all of the applications and what stage they're in. So really cool ones starting to come through. See the light, lots of lights coming through. But even recent changes like the rock chip for Linkstot. Link Lights Gateway. Yeah, it's just so many manufacturers coming. Eventually we'll be flooded with them. Dragino, we just got approved the other day for their full hotspot, I think. Some company I'd never trust again. Another company I'd never trust again. Hopefully, I was digging at those companies. The witness limit proposal. So you're talking HIP 42, right? So HIP 42 was born out of Discord discussion, and that's what I love about these things. Come talk, come and talk, come and join the conversation. Have a think about it. And a pattern was noticed that hotspots would often not beacon on purpose. They'd block inbound coming connections. Because the simple fact is, if they beaconed, they'd reveal where they were compared to what they were hearing. So HIP 42 was to combat that, and most people seem to think if they've got a hotspot that witnesses a lot that they're gonna feel the effect of it. It's just not true, and it's not designed to be true. It's only designed to be for those ones that aren't pushing data back, right? Oh, it wasn't Dragino. It was Nebra. But yeah, where was I? I can't even remember. Yeah, so yeah, the behavior was designed to stop those that never beacon, because this network's only usable when it's both ways. I can uplink, but if you can't downlink to me and I can't get a message back to say maybe it's a confirmation or maybe it's a we can't hear you that well, please change your SF rate to something else. It's useless, and especially when we move to the current devices at the moment are called what's called Class A, so they can't receive a downlink until they send an uplink. So this will check in. I might get an uplink that will say, oh, instead of checking in for 15 minutes, check in every minute, or we can't hear you that well, change your rate. So if you can't do that kind of two-way connection, it's bad. And we want to move to a network eventually where we can support Class C devices that can uplink and downlink at any time they want. So if we can't do both, it's bad for the network. And that hit was trying to stop that level of gaming. So you shouldn't be affected by it. There's a tool that you can check to see if you're affected by it. For the general person, you shouldn't be affected by it. And there's talk of even having minimums. So you can, at minimum, witness a certain amount a week, even if you don't beacon, or say a new hotspot comes on the network, they've never beaconed before, so they can get a certain level of witnessing. Any tips for getting out of relayed status whilst running on Starlink? You can't. I actually know this. A friend's got a Starlink and a hotspot on it. They use CGNAT, so you don't have a public address. You can't fix relay. You could use a VPN connection and set up a VPN connection so that you can relay the messages through there rather than being relayed on the network. But as standard, you can't fix relay on Starlink. Where's the checker? Pop onto Discord and talk in the Hit 42 room. Let me see if I can find it quick. Just spend a few moments. See if I can find it. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. So good. So there's two tools that you can use to use it. One uses a public IP address and the other one's checking for by hotspot name. But the hotspot name one not's been working, so use the first one, although it's your public IP address, but just look up your hotspot and you'll see if you're likely to get hit. But I've been talking to a lot of people so far. I haven't heard of anyone that's saying, yep, I'm definitely going to get hit. And the vote that we had the other day was just to say, should Anthony spend all the time coding it? So nothing's hard coded. Everything that goes into it goes on a chain var. So, if we need to adjust it in the future because it's too strict, then we can change it back. How long will it take to update an API reported listen address? Does it still appear? It's still a peer-to-peer on Helium status. So it's just one of those things that can take a few days to clear. It's been bad in the past. It's taken me a week or 2 weeks to clear it. The only thing you can really do is if it doesn't update in a couple of days, is to restart your hotspot. What that will do is it will cause it to announce that you're back on the network and what address you're on, so it can cause some gossip. But before you judge Helium status, it's just double check with a connection test. So you can go on the site, just hit here, force connect, and just put your IP address in and just double check that everything's listing right, because it might be stale info. But yeah, the API address. The only thing the API address being different means is that a lot of hotspots might struggle to dial you to beacon. You should still witness as normal, but if the API address is wrong, you might notice that you don't beacon in a while. But if the relay address still works, so if you can click that listen address, the API reported listen address, then you might not notice any problems at all. Yeah, relay can sometimes have issues. Not always. It used to be fantastic. It's slightly worse now, and soon enough it goes away, so you won't even have to worry about it. But Yeah, API address is just something you have to wait out. There's nothing much you can do. Like, sometimes it's just bad peering and a reboot will help. But again, as ever, try not to reboot these things. Like, that's the worst thing you could do is reboot them, you know? Yeah, yeah. But you should be able to ping the peer-to-peer address if it's still active. Amazes me how it works because I've never quite worked out the mechanism. But um, yeah, the fact that you can ping a relayed host, so you can go via one host, it's then sent to the host and then back, but they can't send to the host, so they have to wait for it to check in to get it, and it can still come back with a decent ping time. Confuses the hell out of me how that it's magic, you know, but it still works. Are you still reload though? Let's have a look. Old Malot. Yeah, you see different addresses. So it will try and dial you on this one, but you're actually on this one. So it will say, hey, it's your turn to beacon. And then look, it fails. So you might not get beacons for a few days. But if you're reporting a witness, that's outbound. So outbound isn't recorded, you know, it's not stopped. As long as you're dialing the challenger correctly, you know, you've got the right address of the challenger, it'll work. So it's just something you have to wait out. See, look, relayed and pings. Always confuse me. It's just magic. Magic. How about Bobcat fixing the issues? I don't have the best history with Bobcats. I've got some of the older ones um, of most units. Luckily or unluckily, I was generally batch one. So I think the telltale sign is if it's got the Bobcat name on it, you probably got a 1 gig one. Yeah, they haven't been the best for me. One of the problems with them is that the board has a LoRa card in it, and then the cable comes off the LoRa card into the board. There's some impedance matching caps. It comes off the board back on into the plug. So if you change the antenna on the original ones from anything that's standard, it doesn't work well because it's so well tuned for that. And I think that's what I'm suffering with. I put non-standard antennas on everything. I put McGill's on everything. And if I'd just kept it with the originals, I probably would have been better. But it's still not as bad as these. These things crash. The cards aren't any good, and you can see that I've got the heatsink on the front of it because it slid off. One good thing is I bought them when they were cheap. I paid half the price of what they were selling them for in some of the later batches, but you know, tarnish their name for me. I wouldn't recommend them. I've had their new units a bit better, but you know, when you've dealt with a company that's given such bad support and such community support, I think it's really important that we get that voice heard and, you know, say, don't support these companies. But at the same time, I still meet people that say, my Nebra unit's been fine, it's one of my better ones. I laugh in their face, but yeah. Yeah, so you may send out a beacon and be heard by 100 people. It used to be the case that the fastest to respond got served first, but there's certain hotspots like DIY that could always respond faster, just because of the way ECC keys work, chips work. So they changed it so a challenge will be sent out. The challenger will send it to the beaconer, and then it will wait 20 blocks. So block time is 60 seconds. So in that period, you know, anyone could submit. When it's finished, it then randomizes the list and picks 80. So you may be heard by 100, but it will only show 18 that you earn from. Sense cap have been good for me. I've had one unit, enjoyable. Had a few issues. I think it was SD card related again. A few fast sync issues, but generally it's been fine. But the one I'm most looking forward to is the BFGNeil. So this is a data only gateway. So it's called an LPS8. They are fantastic, and can't buy the LoRa parts this cheap that you can get these for. So BFGNeil are absolutely fantastic company. I can't wait to see them on Helium. Recently approved, so would I recommend a Swish 8 dBi Nebra antenna or a McGill 9 dBi antenna? Generally, I wouldn't recommend an antenna that big. Out of the two, McGill's always tested better for me. So the Nebra ones are good, better than some manufacturers, but not as good. And then again, McGill, just a brand name that they've made from China imports. So you know there are better antennas out there. So don't think that's the end choice for it. You know, try these antennas. There's nothing better than cracking out on nano VNA and you know looking at how well these antennas perform. Can I explain the key differences between the 1302 and the 1303? Not really. The 1303 is a newer revision. It's obviously more sensitive, but there's also some more advanced features like time of flight. So you can do trilateration with it. So you can pinpoint things a lot better because there's a faster speed to it. So current versions like a 1301 or 1302, you can't do that because they're just too slow to reply. You can't measure it accurately enough. But the 1303s you can, but they need GPS as well to help with it. So some of the newer hotspots come with it. I think they said some of the sense caps come with 1303s, but when are we expecting light hotspots? My guess March, April, maybe May. It depends how it goes, you know. There's a change to the way the system works. Obviously, validators are going to do challenging. So, so at the moment, hotspots earn from that 2% in an epoch. So, you know, like gateways, lone wolves. You know, hotspots are on their own. They still challenge, so they still earn something. And that 2% needs to move somewhere, and wherever we decide to move it, we need a hit for. So that hit process is slow. It could take a month for the hit process to go through. So you know, I could foresee it taking a few months from this point. There was ideas tossed around. You know, maybe that 2% should still be shared out between lone wolves. Was a good idea. Waveform was one that suggested that, and I like that one a lot. But you just have to remember that validators will be handling all this extra gossip. So rather than hotspots sync blocks between each other, they'll be reporting into validators. So there'll be a lot more data transfer for those validators to do to handle the hotspots. So obviously the best place for that 2% to be moved to would be validators. But whatever they do for the move, it needs to be a hit to do. So why are my rewards so low? Hard to say. Bluetooth diagnostic as always. Why are my rewards so low? How long is this piece of string? It's one of those questions, isn't it? Just all I say is on that Bluetooth diagnostics until the next app version comes out, ignore the fact it says 100%. Please check the block height. It makes such a difference. Yeah, if you haven't already, please smash that like button and subscribe. Share this out. Been fantastic seeing the support you guys have been giving me. I knew I needed to get that rack video out when I heard that SD cards were writing about 17 gig a day, and the chain was nearing 27 gig on these hotspots, with snapshots and things involved. So knowing that racks had 32 gig cards in them, had me worried a bit. From what I understand, I think there's some systems like Syncrobits with 32 gig cards, so that you just can't change. You don't want the iPod of devices, you want the Zune. So there's the Heltec Cube Cell. I'll show you it. This is the one I think most of the DIYers love the most. Cheap. I mean, look how cheap they are. Just make sure you get the right frequency for your range. Really nice little boards. I quite like the. They're a bit chunkier. Go T-beam. This one. Most of them have this side antenna, but I seem to have bought a revision that was in the end because I liked it a lot better. So it's actually a glow in the dark case, but you can't really see that well. Yeah, but I played with these for a little bit. I liked them, but my favourite is out of all of them. Oh, and I've got a. That's one I built. The Seed Cell now as a full kit. Just come out by Paul. One of the better ones because it's a big screen. It's nice to see a big screen. And he's got a back end that will show you on screen how many hotspots have heard you. So whereas you saw before on the Glamos, you could only see that you sent one. This one will come back and say, we heard you at this RSSI. We heard you at this SNR. And yeah, how many hotspots heard you. So it's quite a nice one. Probably one of my favourite ones with the screen. But overall, I've just been blown away by the WizBlock stuff. So I did upgrade it to a much larger antenna, and there is a very soggy battery pack that goes in it, just an 18650. But this has been accurate within 10 meters for me indoors, which is just insane for GPS. So yeah, printed one, yeah. But this one that I built on WizBlock is just a project box off Amazon. So like, this is what I really like about DIY is that you can customize it how you want. And yeah, if you just type, I can't spell today. If you just type in project box, you see they've got these lovely little containers. So look, 5 of them for $7.99. I mean, I can't print that cheap, and I just dremelled a hole in the side, the antenna, and it's a great little box. So with this this mapper as well, it's a bit ambitious, but it's actually got a. Sorry, everything's everywhere. It's actually got a lid with a solar panel as well. So these are nice and cheap off of Amazon. So you can just feed solar in it. So maybe you want to write a program that only detects when your car accelerates. When it accelerates, this tracker starts working, but the rest of the time it's charging. So you could do that with WizBlock, and it's just really fun. It's snap and click modules, little screwdriver, Visual Studio examples everywhere on the GitHub for every sensor they do. You can either buy it as a kit, or you can buy the mapper now as well. So Rack sell the mapper direct on their website. And don't worry, I'm not one of those YouTubers that has an affiliate code, so yeah, they now do the Rack Helium mapper. So they got a full guide on how to use it here. But they've got a mapping kit now. One of the things I don't like about it, and that I don't think they particularly like about it, is the size of this case, because it's tiny. As you've seen, it fits in one of those boxes. But yeah, they either do this, or you can get the full Helium developers kit. So this is the one I've got. Fantastic little kit. Comes with so many sensors. So, environmental sensors, GPS, light measuring pressure, temp and humidity, 3-axis. And then you get a load of interfaces as well. So if you have an existing sensor that you want to read in, you can generally use one of these sensors to do it, or Wi-Fi module, for example. Comes in a nice little kit with a screwdriver. So 2 bases, so you could build 2 sensors. Maybe you build yourself a mapper and an environmental sensor. That's what I did the first time. Great little kit, can't recommend it enough. SenseCap M1s, do you need to change the SD cards? I've heard if you look at the SD card and they haven't got a serial number on it, it's a fake card, and they've had some problems with them. So, one thing with the SenseCaps is that you have to copy the config file of them. It's a completely different process for them. It's a completely different image. So just be really careful and make sure you speak to them about doing it. Yeah, I like screens on mappers, but they add so much battery. But what happens with this Helium mapper is it actually comes with a Bluetooth app. So as you're walking around, you can, once you go through this configuration, it goes through every step, which is great. You can get this WizBlock toolbox, right? So you connect Bluetooth to your mapper. You can change the region on the fly, how often it checks in, any of the keys you're using, what spread factor you're on, what transaction power you're on. So you have that kind of companion app with you, and then pair that with like cargo. So cargo, or the coverage map. That's another good one. Yeah, you can just live tracker hotspot. So these are all of the check-in points that it's had. Obviously the map, I'm on a Mac, so it takes a while to load, but you can see all the mappers on it. See, look, see where they've been driving today. How fantastic's that? That like this wouldn't have been a reality a while back, when I first joined the network, they just wouldn't have had this sort of coverage. But now look at it, and you start seeing that. Wow. Let's go to the mappers map. There are some areas which are fantastic where Helium started, but generally we've got a lot of catching up to do, right? So even in London, we need help, right? So one of the problems is the network itself, and when people come to look at it, they look at the Explorer, right? So if we look at Explorer right now, you might notice, I'll show you. See if there's any questions first. Yeah, so I can show you some problems in the UK. Nothing looks wrong with that picture. Nothing looks wrong with this picture. But if we go to Hotspotty, you'll soon see the problem. So Hotspotty, you've got a filter. Just so everyone's aware, this... Let's quickly off that. I'm not going to be able to show you it on Hotspotty, but never mind. What I could tell you the problem is. So when someone looks at this coverage map, they'll think, oh, well, there might be coverage here. This cluster of hotspots, not all of them, just to be clear, most of them is gaming. This cluster is mostly gaming. These are all looking to be in China, but aside over here. There's also a big cluster up here, mixed in with others that is gaming. So it's not an accurate representation of coverage on the network. So look, there's 3 hotspots in the middle of nowhere. So anyone can associate put hotspots anywhere, and that's how you end up with clusters like this. It means nothing. Look at the earnings, and most of them are earning nothing, right? So they're all setting them here. You can see that there's, according to the scale, there's some higher ones, but this is probably due to the fact that the band list is off. Pretty fireworks pattern, but doesn't mean much. So if we can expand this mapper's map out, it would be much better for the network that this is the default map. But to get to that, we need to provide a lot more mapping data. So really, really recommend it if you can to get a mapper. Am I playing around with Meshtastic? No, I'm not. I haven't touched that. What miner would I recommend? Right now, I would recommend a rack. Say minted. I hear there's another drop soon. My second choice would probably be, from everyone I've tested, SenseCat. Racks are getting a new dashboard soon. Their LoRa cards just have some magic to them. Well, it's not magic, just brilliant design. And that design for the Rack 2287, which come in those hotspots, was done by Helium. So, you know, when Nebra launched with this piece of crap, which is the Maxia, it was the SX1301. So it was an earlier version before Helium messed with it. So they're just not as good. And the ones in the racks are absolutely fantastic. They're just so much more sensitive. So the racks just perform better. I mean, they have syncing issues recently, you know. They haven't got a dashboard. Maybe that's why you want to go with SenseCat, but Rack are getting one soon, so. And you talk about rewards for mapping. Everyone wants rewards for mapping, just to be clear. But it's a tricky problem to solve. You've got to remember that this mappers data is an open endpoint, right? So anyone could submit data to it. I could choose to write my name with data if I wanted to. So it's not a source of data that can be trusted. There's a couple of ways around this. You know, devices can be built that are potted, so covered in resin. If you try and break the resin, you will break the chips on the board. But they're tricky. They're tricky. And you have to trust the person as much as you do. As you do the device, and it's one of those things that's at so much bulk just to score and earn that it almost needs to be a sidechain, right? Or maybe someone comes up with an idea of, here's how we map the Helium network and make money out of it. We can share this money out, but off chain, maybe on a side chain, you know. Everyone wants it though, and there's this idea floating around that maybe with secure mappers we could earn. You know, the blockchain would select targets on the network that it thinks need proving that they're actually existing there. But there's problems with it. For example, what if an area in New Zealand was targeted and there wasn't any host nearby? Does that go unchallenged forever? It's obviously too much money to ask someone to fly there, and it might go unchecked forever. So, you know, you gotta think of most situations. And but one of the things I've been thinking about recently is that, you know, changes to the network don't have to be perfect for the first time. You know, it's about moving forward and improving what was there before, and then aiming towards it. You know, it's the same with decentralization. It's the end goal. Are we there? No. Are we moving towards it? Yes. Have things changed my view on the Helium network about decentralization somewhat recently? But not that it's tarnished my view of them. You know, everyone agrees that shadow list needs to exist. No one likes the way it was done without telling us. Yeah. Hit 40 all the way. We'll get there. It'll be interesting to see some lists coming out. See what people think and how they're scoring the list. How are we all doing? DIY mappers and DIY hotspots. Yeah. DIY hotspots will be great, you know. The sad fact of it is this is all you need to join the Helium network. A Raspberry Pi and a LoRa hat. You know, the fact that we can't have this, some people think it's slowing down the network. One thing to note is if you could buy Raspberry Pis and LoRa hats and join in the network, they'd be sold out just as much as hotspots were. So it would add some growth to the network, and I think a lot more than that we have at the moment. I'm a big believer that HIP19 is not working. You know, second manufacturer now being proven to be gaming. HIP22 will improve that, but HIP22 still needs an onboarding process, so someone has to generate those keys and onboard them to the hotspots, but it's a step in the right direction. It's not the perfect solution, but it's a step in the right direction. And if we could back that up with secure mappers, we'd be in a much better state. I fully expect there to be some machine learning HIP 40 lists, so deny lists in the future. Someone can set a pattern, set machine learning going, and if enough validators support that list, then that can target hotspots on the network. And the question to ask then is well, if these lists are targeting them, what's stopping us from getting rid of that 19 process to open up DIY so everyone understands how these things are going on? I mean, I'm in a very lucky position. I mean, this could be a live gateway on the network for me. I have a DIY key. The machine I do have it running on at the moment is off, so I could just pull up another one and have a packet forwarder. This is just a packet forwarder. The mine is in the cloud, so it hears things, sends it to the cloud, and then goes through the network. So this is almost what a light gateway will be in the future. I mean, obviously the Raspberry Pi 4 is too much. This is a Raspberry Pi Zero, and you know, this is what light gateways can run off. So they don't need RAM, they don't need anything special, and the power draw is so much lower, because simply they don't follow the chain, which is a lot of the struggle with them at the moment. They're following the chain, so all this will do is hear something and report it, or be told to do something and report it. You know, so they could be so much smaller and better, but it'll be nice to see. Yeah, the ban list is off, so it's pretty easy to see some of the manning. I was having a look at it briefly. I saw some hotspots syncing back up. Obviously, being in the UK, I only really know the UK picture. I know the hotspot you guys were showing me Lisbon, and it was insane. You know, the whole area was covered in it. See if we can find them. See, most of them have given up and re-rolled keys and got new keys, and you know, so they're not earning. But a few of them you can see start coming back online. But yeah, crazy amounts of game, and it's not just the UK. I mean, Hotspot shows it much better, but I believe some of these areas just as bad. Will HIP 42 bring a huge earnings drop? I don't think so. It's only designed to really target the people that never ever beacon, and you'll still have a minimum amount you can witness in a week ever. So if you've never ever beacon and you never really hear it much, you're still going to be able to hear a lot. It's like the other day, someone was talking about it. You know, they've realised how many beacons they could witness in a week based on the scoring, and it was, you know, 4 or 5 times what they were doing already. It's really not going to affect the majority. It's designed to hit a few high earning gamers that clearly are doing it on purpose. And obviously over time, you know, when we go to light gateways, challenging will happen more often, beaconing will happen more often. Once hotspots aren't syncing the chain, they could possibly increase the POC time again, so it's more often. So you have more chances to beacon. So yeah, we just have to see how it goes. It's a better solution than what we got now. Yeah, nearly 500k. Crazy. When I joined this network, it was about 8,000. Now look at it. Crazy growth. But I think the whole goal for last year was 200k. 150 to 200k, and we've doubled that. It's clear that peer-to-peer struggling. They're struggling to find every last bug with it, and you can imagine with the platform this big, it's just going to be a hell of a struggle. Like gateways can't come soon enough. I know I keep saying it, but once we get some consistency to the network, it will be fantastic. Oh look, Dragino are a maker now. So if you ever want to see all the makers that are live on the network that have been approved, you can just click hotspots on Explorer and then go to makers, and these are their keys. So this is how many hotspots they can onboard, because the manufacturer onboards pays for the onboarding of the hotspot for you. One thing I noticed yesterday was places were out of onboards. Was it Heltech? One of them were, and you can see it here. You know, if you ever see a fund failing when you're trying to onboard, you can see how many they got left going. So these numbers don't mean this is how many gateways are coming. This is just how much HNT they put in there and ban. But we have a new one, Dragino. They've obviously not funded it yet. As you can see, no funds, no HNT ban, no hotspots added. But it's really cool. Another one most people miss is the DY key. So the DY key is to allow manufacturers to test the odd hotspot on the Helium network and the process to make sure they're working well. So you sometimes see hotspots on there. Antenna is at 7 meters, but I could extend it another 1.5 meters with a few hours of work. Would it be worth the effort? Any height you can get is worth the effort. I mean, the only thing physically stopping you if the Earth was flat is the curvature of the Earth. I meant as in flat, as in obstacle free. You know, no buildings. So getting that up higher just means you can do a little further. Be careful if you're putting a very high dBi antenna up there. You know, you don't want an 8 dBi up 9-10 meters. You know, it's just not worth it. You want to go for a more reasonable antenna, you know, 3 to 6. Yeah, no hugeness. I don't force you to buy my bobcats. You know, don't use my referral links. I don't generate them. I just want to help you guys get better with deploying hotspots, and if I could do that, I'll do that. The SD card thing was huge. I think people needed to talk about it. Definitely recommended. Oh, well, it's been fun chatting to you guys for an hour and a half. I'll definitely be doing this more regularly. If you want to talk about anything in particular, I'm happy to do it. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for supporting me. Leave a like, and see you soon. Bye for now.